Welcome, everyone. I know some of you are saying, I don't have any sound. No, you don't have any sound unless you heard Boo Boo making some noise, because I'm by myself tonight and I had a few things I had to do to get finished up and ready. So, as you can see, I got a lot of stuff laying here. There is a handout with connections to the items that I'm going to be using, so that you can order what is available from So Steady. And then some of the things over here you can get from So Steady or my site. So get what you can from So Steady by using the cart up here. And you can get those things, and then the others are available at your local quilt store. Or if you don't have one, then you can find them with my site. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to have some fun in a simple way. We're going to be using a jelly roll, and the one that I'm using tonight, if you want to write it down, is Gingham Gardens from Riley Blake. And these are some of the fabrics right here. I've already made one of the placemats. We're going to make another one. You can make it with any of the 2.5-inch strips. And I don't have any batting in here. So if you downloaded the information and you're wondering, she's got backing, but there's no batting on there. You could put it on batting if you want. I kind of like this being thin this way. There's actually 3 layers, because one is a layer that we build this front part on. You'll notice it's not quilted through the back yet. That's what we're actually going to do. So if you start, as it says right here, with your base to build on of 15 by 20, then you're going to come down here and draw on it a rectangle that's 14 by 19. And so I've already done that drawing, and I must not have cut mine large enough, because I'm really right here over on the edge. But that doesn't matter, because I am going to have extra so that I can work with that. So don't worry about that at all. In fact, it's not rocket science. I'm just going to say that this is going to get cut off. I'm not using my selvage. You can see how close it is up there. If you want it to have a little bit more space, a little bit more to work with, instead of 15 by 20, do this 16 by 21. You could do that and you would still be able to do that. So I did this in a class the other night that was just basically teaching what we call quilt as you go. Now, this is not assembling like the quilt as you go that we do with our blocks, where we just do a block and then we put them together. That's a different form of quilt as you go. This quilt as you go means I am going to be putting these strips together, building them. Like one will be laid here, I stitch it, I turn it. I stitch it, I turn it, I stitch it, I turn it. So I'm going to put that out of the way, because the first thing I'm going to do tonight is what I didn't get to. And that is, my machine needs a little bit of cleaning. And I always like to do this so you guys can see how much you can get out of your machine when you're working with cleaning it. Now, when I go to clean my machine, I do a little bit of moving of pieces. So if you're not familiar with this, yours may not be exactly like mine, and that's perfectly fine. But there are some things that are expected for routine maintenance. Now, I didn't get it fast enough because I was talking. This automatically raises for me. And then when I look down in here, I've got a lot of little fuzzies and a lot of little lint. When you take this piece out, if you have to take it out, make sure that you notice that there's usually a piece right here that kind of serves as a little stopper. So this won't go any farther than that. And there's this open piece up here. It's kind of like a lazy U. And that's going to go straight into where your feed dogs are. Some of you call them feed teeth. Some of you call them feed dogs. Doesn't matter. They're feeding, except when we're doing ruler work and template quilting. But I've got a lot of lint and stuff down here. So I'm just going to get, hopefully I can find my brush. I've just got a soft bristle paint brush. It's never been used with paint. And I'm just going to take that right down there. You can see, got quite a bit there. And I'm going to go around in here because there's quite a bit there. And at this point, I'm going to stop and get that off of there. And I finally found a source for a brush cleaner. So I'm just going to take that brush and run it over that brush cleaner. And you can see how that just balled that up and got it out of the way. So I'm going to run it down there again. I'm going to come over here where I can see a bunch of stuff. You don't want to blow that on down into your machine. You want to get it out of there. So I'm just taking that. Again, I'll just come back over here, kind of twist it around, and that will come right off. And that way I can keep my brush ready to go. So I'm just getting down in there and kind of flipping some things out. You don't want to hurt any of the pieces. If you got a cutter down there, which mine's right here, I don't want to get into that area or anything like that. And so down here in the middle, you most likely have what's called a wick, and that's going to get lubricated. The other place that I lubricate, and I mean, some of you are going, my dealer told me never to lubricate anything. I'm going to tell you these two things you can do. One is put a drop right there, and then right around this, where my bobbin sits, where my bobbin case sits, that's where I'm going to put a little drop here and a little drop there. Now, this case does not sit in there flat. It's kind of sloped at a little bit of an angle. So that lubricant will run all the way around there. So I'm going to get back in here. I use Tri-Flow for this. Don't ever use anything like WD-40 or whatever. If you have some that came with your machine, that should be okay to use because it came with your machine. But most machines anymore don't come with that. Now, for some of you, you've heard me say this over and over and over. So this is not news to you. But you don't want to just open that up and put anything anywhere. You want to know where it needs to go. Now you can see I'm kind of brushing off. Look what all I got there out of that. Come to the back. It makes it so much easier on your machine. You can see this little ledge because this is the bottom, and that little ledge sits right on this ledge. And I've even had some tell me, my machine worked so much better after I did what you said. I couldn't believe it. Now I got to step over here and get my Tri-Flow just a second. Probably shouldn't have showed this right now because I know I'm out of it, but it's on its way again. And this is what is called a superior lubricant because it's not like an oil. This is a Teflon and it will evaporate and go away. It doesn't stay in there and turn like a thickness of petroleum jelly or anything like that. So I've got one drop there, and 2 drops here in the center. And that will do you for quite a while. Now, when you set this carbon fiber, this is not plastic. This is what's called carbon fiber. When I sit that back down in there and get it right on that ledge, see, I've got a little bit of play there. That lubricant is going to make your machine feel so much better, run better, and not be nearly as loud. And I know some of you out there have watched me do this. So if you can attest to that, send a thumbs up or a heart or something, because I want others to know that it really does make a difference. So again, I think these are like $2.99. Just makes it so easy to clean that brush out and get that stuff off of there. and keep your machine nice and clean and ready to go. Now, I forgot to put my bobbin back in. So let's get that there. Make sure we hold on as we pull around so it gets seated in the tension. And then I'm going to pull my grid glider back. And everything else is set up and ready to go. I'm going to look to see if anybody has any questions. Yeah, Carolyn says FAF is self-oiling. Yes, so is this machine. So is my Viking, but you still need to do what I'm showing you here. It will make a huge difference. This is when it says here, brush cleaner that painters use. It's no. This is not any kind of a liquid or something like that. This is just a little piece of, I don't know what you call it, but it's silicone, I think. And it's got rough edges in there, and it allows it, like I said, they're all different kinds. When you get yours, it may be a popsicle shape because I've got all different kinds of them. So anyway, that's a clean machine. Q-tips do work well, but they don't always get in between where they need to. All right. I think I've got that. It's a brush cleaning mat. And I tell you, when your machine gets dirty, that's when it really shows up when you're working with your templates, because it's just so fussy that it does make a big difference. Now, when I'm doing this, I am not going to try to make all of my placemats alike. They're going to all come from the same jelly roll. And I want to get this. I'm going to show you how I figured this out. So the easiest way is to just take one of your, I'm just using my little minis, but you can see I just want it to go across that way. I'm going to make a line so I know it goes across. And that would be at the 45. Okay. You can use your little ones. You can use your big ones. You just want something to get started so that they're going to be going in the same direction. So I'm just going to take this right here. I'm going to come to this corner. I'm going to lay that down there. And I'm just going to take, in this case, I can just use a pencil. You can use a marker or whatever, because this is the background. And for those of you that have not gotten one of these, what we call centering rulers, we use it for everything, but that's what I'm going to use here to get it out there and down to here. Now, I only need that one to get started. I don't need any others because everything will build off of this. And I don't know that I got that the right distance. Let's just do this and draw another line. So I got a couple of lines to go by. So when I have a jelly roll, I just keep it so that I put it in like a clamp like this. That's where it's opened up. And so these back here are all folded in half. These I've not used at all. These in the front I have used. You can see they've been cut off here. And so this just keeps them all together. The clamp makes it real easy so that I actually hang this on a hanger and put it on my rolling cart that I have for my samples. And I'm going to get, like I said, I don't want to make it exactly like that one. So I'm going to come down here and get a different color to start with. I think I'll use this one right here. So I'm going to lay those to the side. It's kind of best if you just almost shut your eyes and pick blind. It makes it so much easier than trying to figure it out. But if I've got one that I'm using that I've already used, you can see that this has been cut in a direction that's going to, not be, you're going to have to overlap this. And so it looks like I'm going to just line that up right like that. And I go ahead, not that you have to, because the next one will hold it down, but I go ahead and stitch with it just like that by itself to get it ready to go. And as you can see, I have my ruler foot on. Not going to be a good thing, so I better get that off of there. Although it's surprising, I have had my machine set for just a regular straight stitch and had my ruler foot on, and it actually kind of pushed it through. I was a little bit surprised. So let's get 1/4 inch set up. And I need to go the other way. And you can use either your 1/4 inch foot or get your measurement set up to 1/4 inch. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot. I've got them over here in my nice big blue drawer on my wish table. And when I use this 1/4 inch foot, I'm going to show you this before I change it. My needle set in the center. I just changed it, but I changed it back. But my needle set in the center will not be in the center of my foot. It's still clear over here. And this machine, they knew that some of us might get too excited and forget to change it. So they put a hole in that foot. You're not going to sew that way, but you're also not going to break your needle when you're, didn't get quite ready for it. So I'm going to change mine to quilting. Many of you have heard me say this before, which has a 1/4 inch setup. And when I do that, I don't know why it didn't move over. Oh, I don't have it clear up to the top. So that's the other way. Get back over here. Getting back to what I was saying. I want to make sure that I've got it set for the 1/4 inch and using the right foot. And down here's my corner. I want to cover that up. And I just want it to be straight or parallel is what I'm trying to say there. And I'm going to stitch outside of my line because I want that extra. I don't like to have it at the 1.8 that it sets up. So I'm changing it to 2.2 because I don't want those little teeny tiny stitches. Everything's going to be secure. It's not going to fall apart. I'm going to go ahead and just cut that there. And then you might have seen on my handout, I have a little 6x8 mat. And it's an Olfa mat. It's just a little one. I keep it right at my sewing machine. Top drawer, actually. And I'm just going to lay my ruler right here. And I could not find my 18 millimeter. This is a little one, and it may very well be 18 millimeter, but I've got one that I like a little bit better. But that just allows me to have that right there where I can keep that handy. Just move it over. And I guess I put my foot down. That's not a good idea. Now I got a stitch in the middle of nowhere. So the next one and all of the rest of them after this, we are going to be overlapping, lining up, stitching, and flipping back. Now what you need to do is flip this back and see See how that's not over like it's supposed to be? So you need to pull that up so you know you've got it over, and then I can flip it back in place. And I know some of you just hate when your roly-polies or jelly rolls or whatever the company calls them that you purchased it from, you don't like it when they have those little pinked edges. Well, on this project, I just go by the outside edge. In other words, it's pinked, but I line up with where the little top is, and it works fine. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm outside of my edge there, kind of in what you would call a margin. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that. Now, rather than jumping up every time and pressing it, which you can, I'm going to take this, just roll it back because it's a straight of grain fabric. Even though we're doing it on the angle, it's a straight of grain fabric. And you can just use your little seam roller. And I say that so glibly, and now I don't even find mine. So I'm just going to press it with my fingers here. Everything is in place. Again, I'm going to come down here and just lay that underneath. Always remember to shut your rotary cutter. And you can see this is getting pretty short, but I could put it in another place like that, so it will still work. I'm going to pull out this one here. And we're going to take that end that was cut before. I'm going to do the same thing by just checking it out because it's surprising. It's usually about an inch that you need to move it. I'm going to flip this over, making sure that that's good and flat. Now, when I get to these longer strips, I'm usually one of those that does a little bit of pinning through it. So I want to make sure that the bottom one, if you want to go press that, you certainly can. But I want to make sure that it catches through all of that. Don't sew over your pins. You can sew up to them, but not over them. When my kids were little, I would get out like 6 pens, and I would do everything when, if I needed more, then I knew I had 10 pins out. And when I quit, I made sure I had every single one of those back. And I never thought until I had grandkids, I'd have to do that again. But with cats, oh my, yes, I do, because they think it's pretty entertaining to take them out of my assorted pin cushions. Even the ones that, I think I told you guys this story, but I have one of those magnetic pin cushions that lays all of the pins in a circular mode. They're all like laying on there. When you put the magnet to it, somehow it's fixed so that it will put them all like that. And Miss Ruthie, she just loves, when I'm working with that one, she'll get on there and she'll just pull the pin off just a little bit and let go of it. So it's entertaining to her to watch them snap back onto the magnet. So anyway, I have to keep track of those. And if I don't, it could be problems. So as you can see, we're just turning these back. Now you're going to proceed all the way across there so that you have got this all filled in. And I'm going to show you when I did that first one. And it's one of those things, it's a good thing to happen because it's better for it to happen to me so I can fix it. And you can see how I do it. So when I got up to this corner, you can see I had to add just a little tiny piece. So what I did was I went on to this, and you can see right there, there's nothing. So I just lined that up so it was the same color. And it's, it's hardly, you can see it probably better than I can because the camera picks that up much better. So anyway, that's what you're going to do. When you get finished, you're going to press it. If you used any kinds of markers on here, that's why I used a pencil. But what you're wanting to do then is turn this over. And if you can't see it there, you might want to draw it before you get started. But we're going to recut this now to an exact 14 by 19. And that's easy enough to do when you've got it on here. You're going to see all of this. You're going to line it up. You're going to say, where's 14? How can I cut this to 14 by 19? And then you will take and do what I'm getting ready to do right now. And because I made one of them just as a sample to show a class how to do the quilt as you go. But after this, we are going to quilt this. And yes, you'll probably have to lower your foot some more because it's not very thick. So we would just be quilting through these layers. Okay. Now, the reason you want to cut it to that 14 by 19 rather than just start quilting is you want these background fills to line up. And I'm going to be showing you how we can get that done. Anybody have any questions on that? If you wanted to do batting, it would be behind this base. So in other words, it would be back here, was one of the questions. If I was doing this with batting, it would be the fusible batting. I would use the Pellon 987F, which will fuse right on there. And you can fuse it on before you start doing your stitching. So you could put that fusible right down to this side and you could do that. Perfect. Okay. So that is what you would start with. And you would have raw edges out here on the edge. Mine has already been stitched together and turned and pressed. Now let me show you a little tip. Some of you have seen this before. When I do my stitching with this, at the corners, I go at a little tiny angle. You'll get a better turnout if you stop and go like 2 stitches across and then turn. And then when I get down here, I want to leave enough to get my hand in there. Okay. And so what I do is I back stitch here, I back stitch there, and then I set my machine. This is before I turn it. I set my machine to a basting stitch and I baste across there. And then what I would do, I'll just get a little piece of fabric here to show you. Then what I would do would be, remember it would be the wrong side and this would be basted here. And I would just turn this on that basting and press it. And then I would flip it over to the other side. And let's just get another one as if it was the opposite side. And where the basting in is, I would turn it down and I would press it. Give it a good press. Because then when you pull the basting threads out and turn it, this is already convinced where it's supposed to go. So when I get done with what I'm doing right now, as far as getting ready to show you the background fills, I will be able to top stitch all the way around this. And I will then have it easier so that when I get to this point, it'll just lay right together. Now, if you want to, you can use a product that is called, it's by Boheen, and I know I'm probably not saying it correctly, but it's an iron-on repair powder where you can just like take a paper towel under here and you can just sprinkle this because it's kind of like salt. And we are going to then have that laying right there. And then you're going to just go ahead and press that together. So you can do that and then do your top stitching, whatever works for you. And that just makes it easier. I just want to share all the little tips and tricks with you that make it so much easier to do these kinds of things. So that is, it's called Boheen Iron on Repair Powder. Okay, I'll show you right there. Now, give you another little hint. You can see this is really big, like a salt shaker. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. I take this off and I put a piece of my RNK tape on the bottom of that. So only those three, or maybe just those two, let the powder out. I don't need it all over the place. And that just makes it easier. And in fact, I don't need to take it out. Now, granted, a little bit's going to stick to it, but I'll show you what I'm, get my little, that crazy Megan just snuck in here with a friend, and in the background, they're making faces at me. So there we go. I've just covered that up. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and cut this off. So the lid will go back on. And so now I can just shake out just a little bit of it. Use it all the time when I'm doing stuff like this. It just makes it so much easier. Okay. So what are we going to do with these background fills? Well, I am going to use one of them. And it is from the set. Here it is. I'm going to say, where in the world have I put that? This is my background fills. So you can see we have circles. We have what's called rounded diamond, oval, and pointed oval. Today, what I'm going to be using is the pointed oval. And so the pointed oval looks like this. And if you've never used these templates, you're going to be surprised at how easy, because you don't have to do hardly any marking. So here's my template, and you can see, I guess I'll turn it over. You can see that you've got a lot of lines on here. When I stitch this shape, it's 2 inches. And I'm actually going to, you could put 2 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these, 5 of these together. You wouldn't have to put a straight in between. But I'm going to be putting a straight in between on most of these. And so from this line right here, when your foot fits down in there, up to this line is 2 inches. So we got a half, 1 inch, 1.5, and 2. So rather than me having to look for this all the time, I just use a ruler sticker. And if you're not familiar with ruler stickers, they're available from Sew Steady. They come in a package of 3 different colors, the blue, the hot pink, and the flaming green, I guess I'm going to call it. And that will allow you to see that line. Now, these being 2 inches, this from here to here, after I stitch a quarter on each side, is 2 inches. So I'm going to be able to just lay these 2 lines right here, right down on that, and keep everything straight. Now, I've already done the one in here, and unfortunately, you can't really see it. I think maybe you can when I turn it over there. And so I now have 2 inches and then a 2-inch pointed oval. Now, I didn't go any farther here because it didn't make sense to just put a short straight line. And up here, it was going outside of that. So I just went out to there and back and out to there and back. And then obviously I'll have my top stitching around there. Now, the way we're doing it, you can go out farther because of the fact that we don't have the backing on it yet. So when I was thinking about how I was going to do this, I thought, well, the best way would be to show you doing the quilting before you do the backing. Now you can see my needle's certainly not in the right place now. So let's get that back to where it needs to go. And this is going to be, I'm going to use this side so you can see it. When I put my foot down, I mean, there is a bunch of space there. So I need to go into my settings and lower my foot. And I think you might be able to see it. And I'm lowering that to about half of what it was. I think I got it down too low. And so that will make it, and you would want to practice that on a scrap or the edge, because you'll still have the margin on yours to work in that you could run an edge down through there. So let's see what we're going to do now that we've got one row finished. So right there is where my curved or pointed oval starts. Couldn't think of the name. And I want to make sure that now, since that's an oval, I want an oval to go above there so that they kind of start repeating in a pattern. So I've marked straight across from this spot, and you can do all of this with this template. So I'm going to take that template, I'm going to mark it right, put it right there. I'm going to put my line here. And then I just drew across there because I know I've got it straight. And then I know I want down here another 2 inches. Well, I've got these marks all the way across here. So I'm just going to come down here and put the center mark on top of what I just did. And then down here is where the next mark goes. So I'm just going to line up these lines on the side and put that across there. Now, when you look at this, this means that this is going to go this way. There's going to be a pattern that kind of goes this way because we're obviously working that way. And since that's the case, I know I want a straight line in here right across from my oval. So right there in the very center, I am going to place this pattern. And you can see when I put that down, if I just line up, oh, I'm way too far. There we go. I was going to say something's not right. If I just line that up, I'll know where, because I need my needle in that line. So now I'm going to lower the foot, pull it back, and pull this forward just a bit to put that needle down. And now that needle's in the line. And this is the one that I'm going to stitch up here and back and up here and back. And this will make it so that then I can just bury threads because they will have been gone over several different times. So I'm going to bring up that bobbin thread. Wow, that's pretty cool. That just came right up with it. And we're going to come this way. When you get a resistance, just stop, because that's your seam and there's no reason to really change the thickness to get through that seam. You can see it kind of gave me a resistance right there. Now, if you've never used these templates, this is when you're going to use your manual lift, because if I use this lift, I don't have enough room. Well, it does go through there. But if I use this lift, watch how much more I get. I get a whole lot more. I'm going to pull this through, put it down, line up those lines that I referenced earlier. And then because it's easier, I'm going to turn it around towards me. And that way you'll be able to see too. So I'm just going to stitch in this channel going either to the right side or the left side, whichever one I want. And I'm going to stop at that green arrow. Now I need to go back into my oval. I'm going to set it down. I'm going to line it up with those lines. And when we're using these templates, we have to go twice around to get back to where we want to go. I'm going to lift this up. And I'm going to tell you a little hint. If you will just turn this around and position the green mark right at your needle, you won't even have to think where to stop. You just sew until it won't let you go any further. So I stop, lift up my foot, and line it up. Go all the way back up here to the green arrow. Line up these lines. Lift it up, push it through. All the way back to the green arrow. And if you decide you only want an inch in between them, then just do an inch. And we're down here. I might get the whole circle or oval in. I doubt it. It's probably not going to let me go there. And so now I want to just bury threads. So I'm going to lift up my needle. I'm going to pull this out so that I've got these threads long enough, and then just snip those off. And it's easy enough either way. And I just use a good long straight pin. And I can pull the one that's on the back up to the top. And since I've gone back and forth across there several times, all I really need to do is get my self-threading needle and bury the tails. I miss Megan saying, "Oh, Carolyn asked a question. She wants to know." I feel like I'm not doing my job answering questions. So let me look here. Okay, I'm reading what Deanna said. Yes, and I will tell you, I have got something that I want to share with you, maybe not next week, but in 2 weeks, that's some really cool stuff to use up scraps. And it kind of is along the same line that Deanna was talking about for those of you that read that. Okay, and yes, Patricia, absolutely. I have a jelly roll race quilt to quilt. This would work nice for quilting. Yes, it would. And the thing that's cool about that is a lot of the jelly roll race quilts, the strips go side to side. Go ahead and quilt up and down. That will really be cool. You don't even have to stay right in the strips, and you don't have to do a certain regiment, but that would really be cool too. But I know you can't see this one, but you can see how it shows up on this here. Now, in the template set, I told you there are others. If you want to mix them in, you can. I'm going to leave this one just so I'm doing this. And the reason that I'm going to leave it is because of the fact that it's really just faster. And so that way I can get it done just a little bit quicker. Now, it doesn't matter whether I go this way or I come that way. I'm again going to take this. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to measure down 2 inches. And I'm doing this just because I want to know where I'm at. So see right there, if that's 2 inches, I probably don't want a straight line all here. I want this to be opposite of that straight line. So this down here will be an oval. With that being said, I'm going to turn it around the other way so that when I start this, you can see right here, I drew that line and there's a line right there to put it on. It's so easy to keep this lined up. So let's go ahead, and at this point, there's no reason to go around an extra time if you don't need to. So I'm coming up here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that thread up. And the thing that's nice about this is once you get going, you can see now, because I'm measuring just off of each center strip, but you can see how this could be exactly right. There's where that is. That's where that line is, and this edge. So when you're doing up and down, like I just mentioned when she was talking about that quilt, that jelly roll race quilt, this can just line up right with this. And as it moves over, you don't have to remark or anything. You're just lining this up with this going down this way. So it's just, there's a lot of, I guess the best way to say it is there's a lot of math in when I developed the tool to make it so it was easy for you to do it over and over. And I was going to get out, I've got a really pretty, well, it's Christmas, but it's a really pretty panel print. And this would be perfect on that too. So if you've got a panel print, don't hesitate to use a panel print. It just does what it needs to do. And then you've got it quilted, but it's so much faster and so much easier. Now I got to get it back in the center there. Get this back up here. All right. So now I'm just going to go around. I'm going to pull this down to the green line. And the reason I do that, obviously, is I've got that stop there. And you can see how just simple this is to do. You probably saw me at one point or another over the holidays show the Christmas ones. These are 2 inches and those are 4 inches. Don't try to sew through that little channel. That won't work. And I'm just going that way and back. And then now all I have to do is bring this up, pull it out, cut those threads, and those will get buried. So as you can see on the back, how this fills in the space across there, it just alternates. And it just gives your project some more body than it had. And try not to overthink this, because like right here, you're thinking, oh no, what do I start now? I'm going to pull this thread up and get it out of my way. Okay. So now I'm going to put this right straight. You can see here how that, and that way I can draw my line across there. And because that's hardly any space at all, I am just going to start with, this is a straight line, so right here I'll start with an oval. So I'm going to get this turned over, come right in here where I'm lining these sides up, and this line that goes across that way. And once I've got those, all I'm going to do is put my foot down, come to that center, needle down, foot up, so I can pull up my bobbin thread. Here we go. Now, I could have started back up here like I did on that other one and come around and then moved on. I didn't think of that in time. Flip it around so I can use my green arrow. And for those of you that are thinking about this on like a jelly roll race or something like that, it will go much faster because you won't be stopping and starting nearly as many times as I am. because I'm not getting a whole lot each time because my strips are short. I don't know if I can get, yes, I can on that one. It went all the way around. And then I'm just going back like that so that I can raise that needle, raise the foot, pull it out so that I can have enough threads to bury at a later point. And I'm going to turn around here. Right down there is the top. So again, I can use chalk on this one. And you could really go clear across there, but you have to have those lines near your edge. So they wouldn't really be effective with that. So this one being 2 inches, I'm just going to take this and set it here. 2 inches is right in the middle there. So that's where I'm going to start because there's a straight line. So I want this to be the shape. I start a sentence and then I get so involved in what I'm doing, I forget to talk. So I'm putting this so that this is right on that line. Foot down, needle down, edge and edge. I'm going to go back like that. So when I come back, all I have to do is bury threads. Go to the green arrow. And this time, I doubt that it's going to make a full one. We'll see. Oh no, it's way off. So I'm just going to go this way, back down, and then I'm just going to go up a little bit and back. Raise my needle, raise my foot, pull this out. And this one, I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to do it this way because right here is where I want it. See that right there? I'm going to put the center line there. Oh, no, I'm not. The edge. Yeah, the edge right there. This is at the top of this one. Split the difference. And we're going to start here. I have to think because I'm used to hitting the scissors. I just want the needle up. And you're going to then just flip this around and repeat it on these last 4. And then I would just sit down while I'm watching the football game, which happens to be on, and pull those threads and bury them. I usually only do it on the commercials. But anyway, because I am a football fan. That's how you can do that so easily, so quickly. And depending on what color thread you use is going to be how much it shows up on the back. And as you can see, we've basically quilted 3 layers of fabric. Not any batting or anything like that. So I'm going to take a look here. Can you just do every second row? You certainly could. Certainly could. See what else we got here. Great. Dee said she's always been confused about lining up those background fills. And I will tell you, no matter whether you're on an angle or you're this direction, that's the way. Because like right here, I know you can't see this one very well. This is straight across and the top is right there. So I'm just making them so they alternate. And if it was vertical, just like this, the thing that's really cool about it is, let's just say right here, we just finished with a straight line. You can just right there leave your needle in. Let's say you're at the top of your quilt. You can leave your needle in, turn this, and put that edge right there, but leave that extra 1/4 of an inch to stitch across this way. Your needle would still be in the right space. And at this point, you would be wanting to do one of these. So I would come down here, go through this, and that would be in the right place. So when you get to the top, if you want to, you can just stitch right off, but it's so much easier if you can just go ahead and line up that line. Now, let's say that it stopped here and you needed to go up to there. I would go ahead and do a straight line, but remember that and make sure you line up so that that spot right there is right in between here, because your other line up here might be too long. Don't forget about your 1/4 of an inch if you're going to pull that down so that you can go across. So yeah, once you get started with these, that's why I was so excited to introduce them. It's almost been 2 years, I think now, maybe even a little longer, is because sometimes you don't need a ton of quilting, and it just makes it easy to do the background. Like I said, I was going to do a panel print. It was a Christmas panel print, and this is really, really a cool way to do that. This is another nice thing if you've got sashing that is this size. Now, let's say you got sashing that's a little narrower. There is the oval that is quite a bit narrower. It almost looks like raindrops. You can see there that it's quite a bit narrower. When I set that down on here, it's going to be a little narrower. And guess what? Change it up. Put your echo guide on, or your echo guide on your foot, and you could even do smaller ones. But what you'll want to do is measure it, because now I believe it will be 1.5 inches instead of 2 inches. So that green arrow is going to be at 1.5 inches rather than clear up to 2 inches. And all of these can be done that way because of the shape that they are. This is a circle, an oval, a pointed oval is what I was using. And this is actually my favorite right here. I know you probably can't see that. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. And this is the pointed diamond, or the rounded diamond. And this is really cool to do also with your 1/2 inch echo guide on there. So a lot of different things that you can do with these templates. You don't even have to use the line part. You can just do these one after another all the way up. Does it take a little extra time? Not that much, because you don't have to keep looking for your measurements. So if you just wanted to have these, and I've also done it so like I did 3 or 2 of these, and then 1 2.5 or 2 inch line. And then I did 2 more and 1 2 inch line. And so you can just do all kinds of things. I think many of you are probably familiar with that. I think it's called chandelier quilt, if I remember correctly. And it's kind of a vertical design. And I think these would be great to quilt that particular pattern too. So anyway, if we don't have any other questions, thank you all for joining me today. It seems like it's been a while, and of course it has been a while since I was here. And you can tell I'm getting better with the cold. It sounds a little bit, but these things hang on, and hopefully you won't get it. So have a good night, everyone, a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye now.